All right, this is 12.1 video notes. So before you begin, make sure that you have your video note page out. You can find it at the supply shelf, and it should be a stapled piece of paper. There are two pieces of paper just because all of the notes for this module, 12 and 13, is all together on these pages. So find the side that says 12.1 at the top, and we're going to start from there. So 12.1 is all about parallelograms. So a parallelogram we talked about in the hands-on task. A parallelogram, the definition of a parallelogram, is a four-sided shape with two sets of opposite parallel lines. Okay. And remember, parallel lines are two lines that are next to each other that if you keep going forever and ever and ever, they will never touch. They are exactly side by side and they will never cross each other. So a parallelogram is a four-sided shape with two sets of opposite parallel lines. Okay, so let's draw three different parallelograms. I'm just going to draw a few. I'm going to draw one like this with one set of parallel lines like this. Oops. And one set like that. That's a parallelogram. I'm going to draw a big one. Well, actually, I'm going to start there. Okay. You can draw them too. You can draw the exact ones I'm drawing, or you can draw your own. But you have to make sure that there are two sets of parallel lines. This was kind of a really squished one. Okay. And then, well, it looks like this. Oh, this is 4. Well, that's okay. You can just draw 3. Or you can draw 4. I drew 4. Okay. Move on. Okay, so let's look how rectangles and parallelograms relate. Now, if you still have that parallelogram, get it out, the one that you cut out for the hands-on task, get it out and put it in front of you as you're taking these notes, because this is going to help, and I want you to use your parallelogram as we talk about rectangles. Now, rectangles, you can see how rectangles have 4 sides. I'm going to use blue. So we have a side here, like that, here, and here. Now, we can get this shape from the parallelogram right next to it, and I'm going to show you how. If we draw a line coming down, straight down like this. If I were to cut my parallelogram right at that line, straight line, mine's a little bit curved, but it should be straight, and we take this rectangle, this one right here, or this triangle, excuse me, this triangle, and we put it over here. We just take it, flip it around, and we put it right here. Then what we end up with, can you see if, I'm going to use a different color so you can kind of see what's going on here. That when I draw this now, we have a rectangle like this, instead of a parallelogram. And it has the same surface area as the parallelogram that I cut it from. Okay, so how do the areas of rectangles and parallelograms relate? Well, let's look at the area of a rectangle based on the area of a parallelogram. This over here, area of a rectangle, we've already talked about how the area of a rectangle is the width times the length. So the width times the length. Okay, and we're going to write that like this, width times length. Okay. Now, for this one, we're going to do the same thing where we have this length here, and we have this here. But instead of calling them width and length, we're going to call them height and base. Okay? The height is the dotted line, and the base is just that long one on the bottom. Okay, so now our formula is the area equals height times the base. Height times base. Okay, so what does height mean? Now, height means that it has to measure from a 90-degree angle. Or in other words, oh, hi, kitty. Oh. It has to measure from a 90-degree angle, or in other words, it needs to be perpendicular. Oh, that is not an R. Perpendicular from the base. Okay, so grab a color, any color, but just not your pencil. So I'm going to use yellow. Use yellow. And we're going to mark all of our heights. Now, this little square in the corner here represents our 90-degree angle. Okay, so 90-degree perpendicular. Perpendicular is the opposite of parallel, where the lines are like this. Okay? Crossing each other exactly 90 degrees. So we have our base along the bottom, but this is our height right here. This is our height of this. Okay, this is our height of this parallelogram. This is our height of this parallelogram. We have our little height right here of this parallelogram. This height right here. And this height right here. So those are all of our heights. And these are our heights because they are a 90-degree. The line is a 90-degree or perpendicular from the base. Some of these are sideways, right? Because our height is actually going across like that. Okay. But it's still a 90-degree from that longer line from this one. Okay. Okay, now area. Area is always in units squared. So we know that area equals the base times the height. So the reason why area is always in units squared, because remember, we're trying to figure out how many units, how many squares are filled in this parallelogram. So when we do this, we're going to do our base times height. So area equals base times height. Let's plug in our base and our height. We have our base here, which is 7 inches. And then we have our height, which is, remember, it's that dotted line. It's not the 4 inches, it's the 3 inches. It's the 3 inches. You can ignore the 4 inches, okay? We don't need that measurement. All we need is the 3 inches, okay? Because that's our height. So we're going to do 7 times 3, okay? And then our area is going to be 21. Now, 21 inches squared, because remember, when we multiply two things together, it's a power of 2. So like x times x equals x squared. The same thing as when we do inches times inches. The inches is squared. We're not going to square the 21. We're only going to square this where it says inches squared, so that we know that it's area. Anytime you see it, inches squared, yards squared, meter squared, anything like that, that means it's the area. Okay, let's find the area of this next one. We have area equals base times height. So let's plug in the base and the height. Now, the height is always the line that's 90 degrees. So this is our height, and our base is 90 degrees from that. So this is our base right here. So we have 11 times 2.4. Okay? Okay, and then 11 times 2.4, because my brain is not working right here, I'm going to use a calculator just to make sure. I don't want to make a mistake. Okay, 11 times 2.4 is 26.4. And because it's in yards, we're going to do yards squared. Okay. Now, this last one does not have the parallelogram drawn, but we know that it has a base of 3.6 meters and a height of 11 meters. So area equals base times height. Our base is 3.6. Our height is 11. Our area is 3.6 times 11, which is 396. No, 39.6. 39.6. Okay? And because it's in meters, we're going to put meters squared like that. Okay? So if there are units like inches, yards, meters, don't forget to put that after your answer, and it has to have a squared after it.